chord or draw if you please. I can speak to a large group or small with great ease. I can offer a couch to the wealthy who seek a unique experience, living poor for 5,000 a week. Felt so much better as I wrote down this letter. All I need now is people who pay. A little money goes a very long way, and maybe this'll be a great story to tell. If only I can find someone who'll buy the things I can sell. Ooh, won't somebody please buy the things I can sell?
Woke up with my head under pressure so high, hiding all night, hiding behind my tired eyes. Coffee's cold, the silence loud. I want my pain like a winter shroud. Some days I feel like I can't fly. Other days I feel so fragile. Shattered today, I felt like shine. So I choose someone who could fly. Every mirror cracked a little more. Every step heavier than before. I reached for light but found the gray. Just one of those paper soul days. Some days I feel like I can't fly. Other days I feel so fragile. Shattered days I feel like shine. So I choose someone who could fly. But I picked up my pencil, scratched the page, gave wings to a figure outside the cage. A heroine born from all I lack, drawn strength I can't get back. Some days I feel like I can't fly. Other days I feel so fragile. So I choose someone who could fly. Maybe I break so I can bend. Maybe the cracks let the light in. I'm not always strong, but I am real. And that's the kind of power I feel. Some days I feel like I can't fly. The other days I feel so flat. You're alive and shattered. Today's the day I shine. So I choose someone who can fly. For a moment I could touch the sky. Lifted from these feelings I can fly. When the forget comes around to drag me down, I reach for my pencil and turn it around.
ages, waging war against blank pages. Writer's block coming in stages, keeping my stories locked in cages. Fantastic world stored in my mind, character voices to be defined. But writer's block keeps me blind, a way forward I can't seem to find. Strikes, I need to begin. Get to chapter 5, put down my pen. Writer's block's got me again. No, I can never seem to win. Our tribe's a virtual ghost town, victims of this endless showdown between the spelling of literary renown. And I'm so tired of being its clown. I'm praying on my knees, Lord, won't you hear my pleas? Help me get past the tyrannies, stealing my creative energies. Writer's block is my enemy, keeping me from my destiny. Lord, won't you hear my plea? Help me reach the end of the story. Then the Lord said to me, focus your energy, commit to your strategy, then you'll finally be able to finish the story. Writer's block can't stop me from reaching my destiny. I've got the Lord with me. I'm reaching the end of the story. No, it can't stop me. I'm reaching my destiny. The Lord's with me to the end of my story.
Alrighty, y'all. It is time to get going, time to get started. Rob and Ubi, thank you for joining me this evening. You know, Rob, you almost made me cry earlier. Because I guess I have been feeling a little bit of questions as to whether or not what I'm doing means anything to anybody other than me. At least it's my channel, or I wouldn't do it at all. But knowing that I make a difference to even one person is enough to make it worth doing. And I think, you know, sometimes we all ask that question, is what I'm doing in life worth it? And, you know, yeah. Talk about me? That's what you want to hear about? Yeah, I think you have 40 plus guitars, and that's usually when Karen adds, and one banjo. Yeah, exactly. I have never yet, guitar, I think artists are all like this. We love our tools. Like, it's easy for somebody who deals with paint and pens and digital tablets and stuff to have like a million pieces of equipment and nobody think twice about that, but pick on a guitar player who has like 40 instruments. Probably because the price tag differential is there, but nevertheless, I think all artists like to have a variety of tools at our hands, to pick the right one for the moment, because every tool we use does something a little bit different, makes a little bit of a difference. And I guess, you know, that's kind of how I guess I look at life, is that we're all instruments in the hands of the greatest artist there ever is. And we each do a little bit something different. You'll overlay it with a groove under it. You're moving away from gear and getting into community. You have enough gear to last a good month. Yeah, community is such an important thing. You know, it's amazing to me how little I understood what community was when I was growing up. and how important how big an impact not knowing how to be part of a community made in my life. You know? Yeah, exactly. If you need something to do, peruse Facebook Marketplace. Some people like the 8-color crayon box, some like the 120, around the 64. Yeah, I hear that. But yeah, when I was growing up, my idea of community growing up was, it could be related to the Cheers theme song, you know? No, no! The Cheers theme song where they always know your name and they're always glad you came. And that was my entire idea. Pardon me for a moment. I'm going to adjust the camera just a bit. My entire idea of community. Because our family didn't really do community. We didn't participate in community. We didn't have enough time, enough money, enough whatever you can think of. We just didn't have enough was what I got told growing up. So basically, by the time I was an adult, I didn't know what community should be like. And then I was blessed to come back to the Catholic faith and to get involved in first a women's retreat, where the first part of it was you received the retreat. And then for 6 months after that, you worked with the other women in the community to put on a retreat. And that was my first cooperative experience of building something important, something with impact that matters. And it was very eye-opening to me. It required a lot of growing up. I'd always left community anytime I had the chance to get hurt. Or anytime I did get hurt, I would pull back. And God had to kind of teach me that, until you're willing to belong in a community, you will never belong in a community. So in other words, you have to stay in the community long past the point where you get hurt. And then you have to come back in and practice that forgiveness skill, because forgiveness is a skill. It's not natural to forgive. It is healthier to forgive, but it's not natural to forgive. In fact, our brain's wiring is wired to hold on to pain for as long as possible, because as far as the brain is concerned, it doesn't remember the positive as without more reinforcement, because the positive can help you survive, but it won't end your life if you don't remember it. The painful parts, though, could end your life if you don't remember. So the brain tends to hardwire anything that caused you pain into memory so that you'll avoid that going forward, and so that it increases your survival chances. But the problem is that forgiveness, that failure to forgive, actually ends up causing you to stay in a state of pain and anger, and spikes your cortisol and causes your muscles to constrict, slows your thinking down, constricts your heart and your blood vessels. It's really bad for you. And over time, the more unforgiveness you have, the worse your health gets. So you're really poisoning yourself. One of the things I figured out later, after learning lessons in community, was that there are 3 natural responses that the human being has to getting hurt. And the first reaction, imagine that we're all born on this battlefield, right? And everybody's pitching stones at each other. And you're just on that battlefield when you're a baby. You don't have any control over what's going on. People are just hurling stones, and some of those stones ends up hitting you. Now, the natural first response to getting hit is to pick up a stone and hurl it in the direction of other people.
Like a screwdriver coming through.
Oh my goodness, my husband is liquoring me up. At least I don't have any guns. Can't shoot at anybody, right? So at any rate, The first reaction is to pick up the stone and throw it back in the direction it came from, in the hopes that you hit the person who hurt you. Problem is that person's already moved on, and the person you end up hitting is completely innocent. They haven't done anything to you. So instead of resolving the situation, you are literally causing somebody else pain. You're passing it on to somebody else. And then the second reaction, okay, I don't want to throw stones anymore. I don't want to hurt anybody else. So I'll just build a wall around myself. So you take those stones and you start building your wall. But your heart is like a prized rose bush. In order for it to thrive and grow healthy, it has to receive light. And in the case of your heart, that light needs to be love, right? So the higher and taller you build your wall, the less light is reaching that rose bush, the less love is coming through to you, and the less of your love is going out to the people you care about most. And to make matters worse, you can't even see what's happening on the battlefield. So when stones do get thrown your direction and manage to go over the wall, you can't even prepare yourself for them. You're completely caught off guard. So the wall doesn't really work either. It just leaves you cold, isolated, and eventually unable to give or receive love. The third natural response to pain is, okay, I'm done building this wall. Now I'm going to take the stones and I'm going to put them in my own emotional backpack and I'm going to carry them so that nobody else can use them against me. Well, that's great. But eventually, you're so weighed down with everything that happened in the past that you're making zero progress forward. You're literally not able to move into the present. You're not able to be present for those who love you because you're still stuck in the past. And it's not until you encounter Christ and He teaches you how to choose to take those rocks, pass them into His hands, and He takes them and He puts them down on the ground and He cracks them open and He helps you extract the gems of wisdom that are hidden in those moments, so you carry the gems with you that are valuable, that can benefit you and other people by sharing them, and toss away the pain that you don't need to carry anymore. But that lesson in forgiveness and in the value that forgiveness brings, no matter how painful the thing is that was done to you, how important it is to forgive and to let go, not for their sake, but for your own, that I could be part of a community. Because the reality of human nature is this, that even when we're not trying, we're going to hurt each other. Even when we're not trying, there will be miscommunications. Biologically speaking, we're incapable of seeing things the same way as another person, even if we're encountering the same experience, even if we have the exact same number of rods and cones in our eyes, and even if we happen to have the same level of astigmatism or no astigmatism in our eyes. By the very nature of where we're standing, our perspective is going to be different. We're gonna see it differently. And so that creates this situation where people can feel like somebody's lying. Well, you're lying about this situation because you don't see it the same way I do. No, they literally can't. And understanding that and realizing that most people anyway, aren't really trying to deceive you. They just don't see it the way you do. They're not trying to be obstinate. They're not trying to be hard-headed. They're not trying to be difficult. They just literally can't see it like you do. And so that's where the power of communication comes in. Once you realize that, it's important to learn those skills. Be forgiving. Be quick to forgive and slow to hold on to things instead of the way that our bodies are naturally trained, which is to be quick to hold on to things and slow to forgive. Well, there is something to be said about being difficult by nature. I'm a difficult person by nature. People have a lot of difficulty sometimes adjusting to me. I don't think the same way everybody else does. I don't see things the same way everybody else does. And sometimes my ideas can seem a little out there. But they always have a reason. There's always a reason behind them. This week has been a little bit of a challenge. When I got hired on for tourism coordinator for the city of Morris, one of the things that I understood was that my job was marketing, largely marketing the city of Morris. But that I got hired by the interim manager, and when the current manager took over, she didn't have that perspective. You make choices based on level of funny. Yeah, I probably should. Although you can get yourself into trouble with that one too. Because there are some things that is just hilarious to do, but not good policy. So right now I am trying to work out with my manager what my real job is, how she sees it, and then figure out, can I live inside of that box? Can I function inside that box? That's my trouble right now. I am not good. I have been a solopreneur for so long, and really honestly, here's I think my greater challenge too. I have been the kind of person who operates on my own and is very independent for a very long part of my life. Being in the government, you can't do that. For working in the church was looking for reason in an unreasonable system will only lead to your own frustration and anger. I think there's truth to that. But I have been somebody who's used to operating without having much direct oversight for quite a large part of my adult life. I made decisions, I took actions. Sometimes I consulted Ubi, which, I'm not going to say that I was the best partner because that's obviously not the case. I think a large part of that stemmed from not trusting authority, so you learn to be your own authority. And when you work in government, though, no matter how small the government position may be, you're accountable for your actions to the public because truthfully and honestly, you're serving them. And so what you do, whether you intended to or not, whether you want to do it or not, represents them as a city employee. So you're accountable to them for everything. And I'm not used to functioning this way. And it is a difficult adjustment to make, to think of it. So I'm in the process of discerning right now, did I make a mistake in taking this position, or is this just me learning to operate within the boundaries and confines of a hierarchy? Could be. Could be my ego struggling. So that's where I'm at with my life and my job right now. Everything else is fine. Preparing to go to Portland next week for the IBPA's PubU conference. And, I had known that I needed to make the promotional video for it since January. I even had last year's, and all I needed to do was revise it a little bit. but I just couldn't get the work done. Just everything else just kept stacking up and getting in my way. And I finally, 1 week out from the conference, got the video done. I'm like, holy moly, girl, what's happening to me? I recognize that I was talking with my friend about this. But these days, it takes me months to complete things. I used to be faster. I used to process things faster. I mean, it used to take me so much less time to do anything. And it's like lately, it takes forever for anything to get done. And then I was listening to Bible in Your podcast this morning. And, you know, of course, it's they were talking about the story of Martha and Mary. And how Martha is, you know, upset because Mary is not helping her. She's being left to do all the work. And Jesus, instead of praising her for all the work she's doing, says, Martha, Martha, you're worried about many things. Only one thing is really necessary. He's talking about the fact that, you know, the seed that gets sown on that path, that the weeds rise up and choke it, and it doesn't end up bearing fruit, is about being distracted by the world and its pleasures and its concerns, more so than you are about the world of the Lord. So the themes are definitely related. And I'm thinking to myself, am I worrying too much about the world? Worrying too much about things of this world rather than focusing as much as I need to on the Lord? That's also a dilemma I've got. Am I putting all the time and attention into the Lord that He deserves? Am I really paying attention to what matters? Or am I just getting distracted? Strictly speaking, for the first time in my life, I don't actually need to work. Ubi's job more than covers the bills. So if I chose to let go of this job, you know, and work on my own projects, we could afford that. But I don't want to quit if it's my ego. If I felt like God put me in this position, opened those doors. So I don't want to quit prematurely if it's not His will. I also don't want to hang on to the job just for financial sake if it isn't His will. These are all the things that are going through my head right now. All the baggage, if you will, in my brain. You know, it's hard to sort out. As I'm preparing for the PubU 2026 conference, where I'm going to be teaching the grants workshop. And you know, it's funny that the tourism position has given me new insights into things that book authors can do to get money from marketing. You know, if they're putting on workshops or whatever, they are right in the wheelhouse of what tourism coordinators like me need. So I'm looking forward to meeting all the authors that we'll have in our workshop, getting to walk them through what tourism coordinators need, what they're looking for, what they want, and how they can position their book to being the answer to the tourism coordinator's problems. So there's that. I've gained at least that much out of this experience, even if I never worked another day in this position. I'm also getting some invaluable connections out of it that I'm hoping to foster. So if I seem a little subdued, I think it's wrestling in the moment with where I am in life and asking myself, is this where I'm meant to be? Or is this, did I get here because I was more concerned about my will being done than God's will? And that's always something I like to check myself on a regular basis. Because it's so easy for my ego to creep in and take over. so easy for me to convince myself that something that I dearly want is what God wants for me. Like a little subdued? Uh, oh, ha ha ha, you're funny. No, no, I'm all woman. Although, like I was trying to get myself in better shape while we're here. Because while round is, in fact, a shape, it is not the shape I want to be in. Didn't hear you on the radio today. You did. You did. Briefly, but you did. Yeah. I got in for my Community Connections interview with none other than BrandyMMiller. He's a minor celebrity, It's on the radio station. So, yeah. I don't know. That's where I'm at in my life. Kind of a weird place to be, I guess. Try to make sure I don't hold y'all up all night. And, you screwed that joke up. No, I knew what you'd said. I knew what you meant. You did fine. I'm looking at, speaking of projects that I need to get to, that I haven't done yet. I've got the shark's tooth box, that I need to work on that art for Jen. And then my stepdad's struggling financially, so I need to put some energy and some effort into seeing if I can't find him some grants for his business. Some monies that he won't have to pay back. It's an ugly economy in some ways. I'm a little bit insulated from it currently in that, we have more than enough to cover our needs, but it doesn't mean it'll stay that way. And in a sense, with gasoline prices raising, it's becoming a 6-hour drive that didn't seem like such a big deal when we left West Des Moines. Well, that 6-hour drive is about twice as much as it cost when we left home. Not quite that much yet, but it's creeping up there. And I miss my Mia Jane. I think that's part of it too. Missing being around Mia Jane as often as I want to be. We can call, and there's video calls and stuff, but it's not the same. Not the same as being part of her everyday life. Yeah, although, there were burdens with that too. There were things that I struggled, and that was part of the reason I was so slow for a while, was it's hard to move rapidly when you're investing in taking care of another human being's needs on a day in and day out basis. Just sort of slowed everything down and made it harder to operate. Not that I would trade it for $1 million. That kind of relationship that we were able to build with her. And I hope to continue to keep it. And that is another part of my concern. Another part of what's on my mind. So much is on my mind right now. But I'm really happy that you guys stop in. Will, it was good to see you too. I don't know if you're still lurking around there or... I don't mean to make it all about me tonight. I really didn't. I mean, it is real talk, so I'm willing to talk about anything you guys have on your mind. And maybe you're feeling some of the same things, and I'd love to talk about that too. It's okay not to be happy with every aspect of your life, even if things aren't going wrong per se. You can have everything going right in one area of your life and still feel like crud. I've had that happen too. It's a funny thing. We had been homeless, not for the first time, but homeless for like 8 months back in 2016. And in 2017, in February, Randy gets a job that we get to move to the dream city we've had for 20 years, which was Denver, Colorado. Get to move there. We get paid to move, basically, relocation fees and everything. You get there, and there's nothing wrong, technically. Nothing going wrong. We have money, we have a place to live. Everything's not perfect, but there's nothing wrong. And 3 weeks into arriving in Denver, I don't get anxiety, so this was unusual. I get the worst case of anxiety of my entire life, and I'm filled with depression and unhappiness, and there's no particular reason for it. There's nothing I can pinpoint that tells me why I've got this going on. And then I was sitting down and thinking about it and realizing that this was my body and my brain finally having time to process all of those emotions that have been pent up and held back and compartmentalized during our period of homelessness, because I didn't have time to think about those things and to sort through how I felt. When you're in survival mode, you can't focus on your emotions. You've got to survive. You've got to put your emotions to the side. Essentially, it's kind of like being on the battlefield, right? When you're on a battlefield, emotions are a costly thing. You can't afford those. You'll end up dead. So your brain does the smart thing. It compartmentalizes your emotions away from the rest of you. And it's not until your brain slows down and has a chance to actually catch up and the safety switch is turned into the on position, and your brain says, okay, we're safe, it's time to process. And then you get to feel all those emotions that you weren't feeling before, and you get to work through all those things that you weren't working through, and it comes all at once. And it can be a lot. And I think maybe some of that is coinciding with all of this. That some of what I'm going through is having all of that stuff that I wasn't processing and all that stuff that I wasn't handling have room to come to the forefront. And now I'm like feeling existential crisis-y, which is weird. No. You had a 3-year-old from church call? She wants to tell you about her day? Oh. No, if you have a 3-year-old call, that is a call you take. That is little Jesus on the line wanting to tell you about her day. That is a gift and a blessing that you have a 3-year-old on the line. Trusts you enough to tell you about her day. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, so I think that's where I'm at, is just processing through a lot of things and trying to clear my mind of all the baggage and sort through what's valid and what's not. Trying to figure out my next steps, my next moves. Trying also to discipline myself not to have hair trigger reflexes and make decisions in the moment that I may regret later. So there's that too. And then I'm also preparing for this workshop in Portland. It's not that I like travel. I do. I genuinely like travel. But in this case, the travel requires Ubi to take time away from his work to get me to the airport. And then, so that's a whole bundle of mess. And trying to make sure I get enough hours in, all my hours in, before I leave, so that I get everything done that I'm supposed to do. And then, of course, the workshop will be on Thursday. Trying to make sure. I wanted to have copies of my books with me, but then the thing between getting moved in and getting settled in and the cost of all of that, and I didn't end up getting books ordered, and so I don't have those, and I don't have anything printed up to take with me, so it's kind of like another one of those opportunities where I feel like I'm stepping into it and gonna miss it. What's the point? And it's not a good way to think about it, I know. Because there's always a point to everything. It's just managing to make the best of what you got. So if I seem a little down today, if I seem a little touchy, I guess that's where I'm at. You know, it's I'm not feeling my best. I'm not feeling my happiest. And I'm working to find the gratitude moment, right? You know, I do believe that it is always wise to thank God in the middle of moments like these, even when you don't have all the answers, to just preemptively thank Him. In fact, that's something God taught me when I was younger. It was a Friday. I went on this retreat. I was absolutely miserable when I got there. We were owed every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and there just didn't seem to be a way to pay. My job was going to end in 2 weeks. I didn't know if it was going to be renewed again. I hated my boss, but I needed her to renew the contract. We had, like I said, we owed everything to everybody constantly and never had money. And I was like so unhappy. So walk in, and the first talk of the evening was the priest talking about this guy named Shorty, right? Who wanted desperately to be tall. He felt like he would be loved if he were tall. So he goes through all these things. He buys the platform shoes to try and make himself taller, but those hurt his ankles. He goes through this, basically has somebody put him through the rack to try and stretch his joints and make him taller, but all that does is make his joints pop out of place, and then he's hurting all the time. He has surgery to put metal splints in his shins, but then that causes him pain. And really, at the end of the day, Shorty didn't need to be taller. Shorty needed to be grateful for how God made him. So the priest sent us to our rooms and told us basically to tell God all the reasons we were grateful. Well, this is your girl, the smarty, smart pants, right? You know. And I get to the room and I said, well, I'd like to tell you what I'm grateful for, Lord, but I can't think of anything. You know, that's me. And so God says, well, then thank me for what you don't want in your life. And I was like, why? Why would I do that? What sense does that make? I don't want it in my life. Why am I going to thank you for it? And he said, because what's happening in your life, I am working for your good and my glory, and that should be good enough. I was like, oh, okay. I think that's Romans 8:28, right? God works all things for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. But do we believe that? Do we have faith in that? Do we really believe, that in all things God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose? You know, at the time, I can tell you that I didn't. At the time, I can tell you that I wasn't sure that I believed that. I wasn't sure what I believed. And so I was like, okay, all right, fine, I'll thank you for it. So I did. I thanked him for the bills that were unpaid and for the rent that I wasn't sure about, for the Sophia, the boss that I couldn't stand, and the job that seemed to be so tentative at best. And, you know, at the time my marriage was just, it was okay, but it wasn't great. And, my son was struggling with school, and that wasn't going so great, and so I just thanked him for all of that. And when I got done with that, then God told me, okay, now here's the other thing I want you to do. I want you, when you leave this room, to look for opportunities to serve other people in just whatever way you can. If you see empty glass that needs to be refilled, refill the glass. If you see one that needs to be taken to the kitchen, take it to the kitchen. Don't wait for a thank you. Don't wait for an acknowledgement. Just do it. If you see trash on the ground, pick it up, throw it away. Whatever you can do, do it. And I did that entire weekend. Just focused on serving, you know. And I will tell you, by the end of the weekend, nothing in my finances had changed. Not one thing. My job didn't change. My finances didn't change. My bank account didn't change. My life didn't change. But I did. I felt a little better about myself by the end of the weekend. A little better. And then, here came the magic. This woman comes up to me. She goes, you don't know who I am, but all throughout the weekend, everywhere I turned around, you were busy serving me. She said, all throughout the week, I serve other people and nobody notices me. Nobody ever does anything for me. But you, every time I turned around, you were there doing something for me. And it just meant the world to me. I just wanted you to know. And that just touched me beyond belief. And it was an important lesson that, even in the worst of our moments, we have the power to serve other people. And those acts of service, no matter how small, make a difference. And at the time, I didn't have this principle in mind, but one of the things I would learn a couple years after that, about 10 years, I guess. No, less than that. 8. About 8 years after that point, I was doing my first bit of ghostwriting for somebody else. A woman who had built a multi-million-dollar empire in Singapore using nothing but free Facebook advertising, which by itself is pretty remarkable. And she said that when she counted backward and looked at where all of her successes came from in life, they always came from a place of serving other people with no intention to gain, but purely to give. And that was a lesson I took to heart. And I will tell you that lesson has changed my life. Because of that lesson, a few months later, God would nudge me and tell me, why don't you take a list of 100 people that you would eventually like to have as clients and start praying for them every day. And the logic of it didn't really occur to me at the time. But realistically, what was I doing? Except sowing seeds of service in their lives that they would never know were happening. And they had no impetus to pay me back. Nobody was going to pay me back for those things. It was just a way of serving. And so I carry that habit. I've expanded the list a lot to basically all the people that are touch points in my life. And I pray the rosary and I mention them by name, lifting them up to God, asking for Him, because I don't know what's in my life. I don't know what's going on in their life. I don't know what their needs are, but I know God does. And I know that if I bring them to Christ, and I set them at the feet of Christ, and I ask God to cover them in prayer, to cover them in blessings, to be present for whatever need they have, that's probably one of the best ways I could serve them. And a funny thing about that habit, that practice, is that almost inevitably, when I gain a new client or work with somebody new, I've learned something that makes me the exact right person to serve them right where I'm at. Just an interesting phenomena. It's too much to be coincidence. I'll have stumbled across something. I've worked with psychologists, I've worked with doctors, I've worked with a lot of different industries, and it's inevitable that I'll have stumbled across something that makes me ideal for working with them in their position at their place in the exact right way that they need me. And I do attribute that to the prayers that I offer up. that God prepares me to serve them long before I ever meet them. And so it's a practice I've kept up now for 10 years. 10 years. I have quite a long list of people that I end up praying for each day. And it's not a big drawn out prayer. Don't get me wrong. I'm not spending hours per person. It's, I offer up between, let's say, 10 and 20 people per rosary bead, and there are 53 beads. So you do the math on that. And, of course, my family's included in that number. Randy's family. People I work with. And, yeah, just making sure that I lift them up and intercede for them and putting their needs and intentions. You guys are on that list. The guitar tube community. Randy's community. Brian's, Ted's. You, Rob. Will. Malachi, too. And his needs. Cal and Rocco, and you guys are the family that we have beyond family. I try to make sure that you guys are taken care of in the ways that we can. And hey, Boomer, you too. Good to see you, man. How is life going? Anything interesting in your life this week? I was just rambling on and on about mine. Of course, this is 7 days, and next week I will be broadcasting from Portland, Oregon. I should be through with my grants workshop in time to do that. If not, it will be bumped a little bit. I will let y'all know ahead of time, though, if I have to change the hours. Because they have us starting at noon Pacific time, which would be 2 o'clock Central. And our workshop ends right at 4, which would be 6 o'clock Central. So I should have time to get done, run up to my room, and launch the broadcast. Hopefully it'll all work out the way it's supposed to. Probably be on hotel wireless. Thyroid levels are getting back to normal, and you had enough energy to put on some music. Well, that's nice. Or put out some music. Oh, nice. Nice. Something you wrote? Yeah, I think, yeah. I am a firm believer that what's wrong with this world is that we don't love each other enough and we don't pray for each other enough. And I'm not good at loving people the way that I should. But I am trying to improve on how well I pray for people. I will admit, if time's running short and I've let it run too long, I sometimes do skip the per name prayers and just run through the rosary really quickly and ask Mary to be with y'all as a generic group instead of by name. But I do try to pray for you guys by name. You're just a goof to mess with pole vault and send out some collab bass lines. Pole vault, huh? I don't know what that is. So, pardon me for a moment while I look it up. Interessant. No. Of course, they're giving me the track and field pole vault. Woo. Maybe you could pop that link in the chat. He's a maniac. I'm a maniac. Oh yeah, you guys are doing some collabs. That's good. You'll have to let me know when that's done. I tried doing some collabs. It didn't work out very well. I may try again later. Maybe it just wasn't a good time for people to be collabing. I don't know. It was certainly not a great time for us. Because, around February of this year, our life just took a turn for the to U-turn and craziness. And we're just now getting to the point where we're kind of recovering from all that. It was definitely a little bit hit and miss for a while. But we're good. Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh. That was, let's see. Thursday, May 9th, 2019. I was on a podcast. You know how Facebook does that reminders? It's so funny. Throwbacks, if you will. I was on a podcast called Spiritually Speaking. God, people probably get tired of me talking about God, but honestly, everything that I have right now, I owe to Him. Every good thing in my life. My son is alive because of Him. My granddaughter exists because of Him. Oh, him and his wife, Sunshine Archer. Yeah, okay. No, I know who Sunshine is. I didn't know Polbot was her husband. Okay. Yeah. Alright, I'll have to check into that. I haven't seen her show in a while. I haven't really been paying attention to channels much. It was the 9th. No, it's not the 9th yet. That is coming though. 10th is Mother's Day, speaking of which. For those who needed a reminder, don't forget to call your mom. Hey, Pookie! Good to see you! How's it going? Glad you showed up. You guys are so awesome. This community is awesome. I think it's a really special part of YouTube. Underrated by a lot. But I think that's the way that everybody shows up to support each other, to take care of each other, to check in on each other, to notice when you're absent, to notice when you're present. That's special. That's a huge thing. It's I wish more people could see that that's how the internet could be, because I think a lot of people get soured on the social media because of they mostly see all the people who are bickering and going back and forth on things instead of seeing the part of it that's supportive and collaborative and builds each other's up. Whopper Wednesday is over. Oh my goodness, is it? Well, this is definitely Thursday, so if you were telling Whoppers on Wednesday, yes. Oh no. Gracious. You didn't even partake this week. Oh, was that Burger King doing Whopper Wednesday? I don't know. We don't have a Burger King in this area, so maybe I missed something. Let's see. Whopper Wednesday. Yep, Burger King. Okay. That explains a lot. Yep. We do not have a Burger King. We have Taco John's, McDonald's, and Dairy Queen. And yeah, that's kind of about the extent of it. And we do have Pizza Hut. And we have Pizza Barn. Now, I will tell you, Pizza Barn is awesome. Pizza Barn has a pizza buffet for only $14.99 a person. So that's a pretty good bargain. And that's not the senior discount rate, because Ubi and I aren't qualified for that yet. few more gray hairs and we might be, but not yet. So let's see. Oh, you can come visit us. We have plenty of Dairy Queen here. We have one Dairy Queen in town, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good burger, or pretty good Dairy Queen. We go there because I like the meals deals. Because for $8, the same price I'd basically be paying at McDonald's, I get a sundae tossed in addition to my burger, my drink, and my fries. So that's a way to go. 100% American. Get your maximum calorie fats in. It's great for putting on weight. It's terrible if you want to lose it. I should know. I'm the poster child for not losing weight. You know, once I used to get told all the time, oh, if you'll just cut out soda, you'll lose the weight. Cut out soda for a year, lost 10 pounds over that year. That was it. And I was walking a lot. All over the world. All over, up and down inclines, carrying weights in my backpack. You know, it wasn't like I was doing easy stuff. And yet that just wouldn't budge. Yes, that's what a Whopper alone is, darn near $9. Yeah, no kidding, right? I think that's the problem these days. Eating out is almost not cheap enough to justify. It used to be, you know, that you could get the dollar menu at McDonald's. Now they don't have that anymore. They have the $3 menu. You're not going to get out of there for $1. And they do have the $6 McDouble menu sometimes, but you know, your small drink, your small fry, and then your burger. But not that great. Not that great for you either. And I'm trying to get better on a lot of levels. And I wonder if that too is part of it. I am trying to get better on a lot of levels, and I wonder if my body is having some kind of anxiety attack going, what the heck is all this? You're giving me better nutrition? Because I am. I'm taking the super greens in the morning, and the vitamins, and the fish oil, and then I'm eating more yogurt, and more, you know, whole foods, trying to make sure I eat healthier. And my body may be just like, girl, bye. What are you doing to me? You got me accustomed to all this cheap food that's not really good for me, but it is cheap and it is filling. Why are you doing all these changes all of a sudden? But I figure I'm 50. You know what? I'm not getting any younger. But if I want to get a lot older, I'm going to need to get in a way better shape. Speaking of better shape, I did go over to something interesting we have here. Yeah, if you're going to go anywhere, you might as well enjoy what time is left. Yeah, there's logic to that. I'll agree. You know, there's like the logic of enjoy yourself while there's time. But I don't know. I guess I've been praying for a while that God would help me restore this temple of the Holy Spirit to the condition in which He gave it to me. Kind of a factory reset type thing. And I recognize I can't get there to doing the same stuff that got me in this shape. Kind of got to change things. So, yeah. Let me show y'all the horticulture gardens, which is what I went and toured yesterday. Horticulture display gardens. They are a crown jewel of Morris, Minnesota. Now, they're not as beautiful as they will be in 4 to 6 weeks, but I'm going to pop that in chat for you. Life is unsure, eat bacon. Well, there's nothing wrong with bacon, for sure. I don't know. YouTube will let me share that or not. Doesn't seem. But you know what? I can flip off the flip off the camera. Why not? Yeah. Let's go over here and I'll show you the window capture so you guys can look at what I'm looking at. Let's see. Pull that up. Yeah. Make sure it's going to show it for you. There we go. There's pictures of the horticulture display gardens. Some really pretty shots when it gets going in the summertime. And it also features a lot of the native pollinators, the butterflies. That's a milk thistle type thing. And it's got a lot of cool places for people to settle in and enjoy that's the overlook over the Pomme de Terre River. And then milkweed, which is actually a really important species for the butterflies and stuff. They love that. They love eating that stuff. Caterpillars do. And they've got raised beds and gardens. You can adopt a bed and commit to weeding it. So yeah, some really pretty stuff. But it's not out in full bloom yet. For that, we will have to wait yet some more weeks. Because as I tell people all the time, you do not want to put away your winter clothes until after Memorial Day here. We were at 43 degrees this morning, and yesterday we were at 34 when we got here. It's crazy. So, but yes, the horticulture gardens are very, very pretty. And yes, it would be. You guys need to come up here and visit this place. It's actually a really cool little town. And it has, when school's in session, it has a jazz band. That's one of the things it's known for. Actually, I guess I could give you a virtual tour of some of the cool places in Morris. There's the horticulture display gardens. Oh, let's just do John's Total Entertainment. Like this. Yeah. This is when the storefront was done. So, a man after your own heart. This is the store back that they had done. And the storefront. And then they had this massive selection of gaming stuff. As far as the eye can see, basically. And they do game nights downstairs in the basement and things like that. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, so it's another of the cool places in town. And yeah, should do a guitar tube reunion here. Bring everybody out. Chill out, play. Oh, that's yeah. I'll show you. East Side Park Amphitheater. They did a renewal of that. Let's see. I don't think they have a good picture of it though. Yeah, wait. Maybe. No, that's not a good picture. Yeah. See if I can find it. There's the, yeah, you kind of can see. Yeah, that's the music center in the background there. It's kind of a cool bandstand, and It's usually not used, so if you happen to go out there, you can use it. The Killigan Music Center is what they call it. But yeah. Boop-a-doo. It just gives you a little bit of a feel for Morris. They're going to have music in the park July 3rd, July 24th, or June 3rd, June 24th, and then July 29th during Crazy Days. Oh. Yeah, it would be. The Ubitorium. Yeah, if we brought enough of y'all out there, we could have a live concert out there. All we'd have to do is make sure that we got clearance with the Parks and Rec Center and we could have it. Very much a nice little park there. There's awnings, there's bleachers, there's pretty much everything you would need. So it would be kind of cool to bring people up, let them experience it here. Oh my goodness. So yeah, that is today's episode of Real Talk. So if you guys have anything in particular you would like to talk before I close up for the day, post it in chat. I'm always open to new ideas, new topics, new things you want to talk about, random elements. You can talk about anything here. Unlike most places in society, I do welcome conversations about religion, politics, you name it, and money. And the reason I do is because I'm a firm believer that if we don't talk about these things openly, they fester underneath. And then nobody is talking to anybody. And that's where misunderstandings get a chance to foster, to be fester, more to the point, and to grow. And people become suspicious of one another. And they don't get better. Well, thank you, Boomer. Thank you for the prayers. I certainly can use them. Ubi can use them. Financially, we are probably in the best shape of our lives. But mentally and emotionally, we're kind of coming down off the edge of a lot of trauma. And so I think it's just catching up with us. And we're both struggling a bit emotionally. I need to get my passport renewed. It expired the 23rd of March, sadly. And I do want to go back to Frankfurt this year, if I can. That was a cool experience. I'd love to bring Ubi with me, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Yeah, a lot of channels have to keep quiet about things as a conservative Christian, but you know what I believe? I believe that Christ didn't put us here to be quiet about the things we believe. I believe that he put us here so that we could teach people how to have civil conversations about things that genuinely matter. It's one of my inspirations for starting Real Talk, because I do believe that it's important to talk. I do believe that it is important for us, especially as conservative Christians, to speak up about how we see things and what matters and what doesn't matter. And yeah, it's not going to always make us instantly popular or popular at all, but popularity was never our call. Being loved, as Christ said, if you're not willing to be hated for my sake, then are you really following me? Because he got hated for what he said, even though he said it all out of love. So we can't expect to be better than our master. We can't expect to get better results than he got. Not everybody's going to love us, no matter how kind we are, no matter how gentle we are with what we say, no matter how compassionate we are for the other side. That's not going to be enough, because what we're saying is the truth. And when you're speaking the truth to ears that are used to lies, it's going to come across as hate. It's going to rub them the wrong way. Doesn't mean we don't need to say it. Doesn't mean we don't need to speak the truth. It means that we need to be prepared for the reality that when you've been living on denial, which is this really big river that runs through the state of confusion, the last thing you want people telling you to do is get off of that boat, because you're comfortable there. You don't have to think there. Problem with denial, problem with, everybody takes a dip in that river denial from time to time, especially when the truth gets a little too painful for us. The problem is when you go out and build a houseboat and live on denial, the waters of denial hide the crocodile. And that thing is just waiting for you to get complacent, for you to relax, for you to fall asleep, so it can snatch you right off that boat, drag you down, and drown you. And the longer you wait to get off of denial, the bigger that crocodile grows. So, we are in the business of telling people the truth, that there are crocodiles underneath the water. They don't want to hear it because they don't want to get off the boat. Fair, Rob. We should be treating our bodies like temples of the Holy Spirit, though. And unfortunately, that's not always how I treated mine. Quite often I neglected it. Quite often I barely paid it any mind. And it's letting me know about that. Letting me know about the years of neglect and how it doesn't appreciate that. So I got to make a decision about whether I want to keep going the way I've been going or make some serious changes before I can't make those changes anymore. And I've decided that, quite frankly, I deserve better. So, all right, guys. With nothing else that is on your mind, nothing else that you wanted to discuss, I am going to go ahead and close it up for this evening. I do thank you guys for coming. Especially thank you for the kind words, Rob. They really helped at a moment when I needed them. Know that you are in my prayers always. If you ever need anything, you have only to reach out and ask. I am happy to be of service to you guys in whatever capacity I can be. So, stay cool, y'all. And we should see you Saturday if you happen to stop in for writing and, let's write together. I haven't posted the new thumbnail for that yet this week. I haven't scheduled it out, but it is coming, so be watching.